What is up, and welcome to the Red and Bold Show. Sorry we're a little bit late, just having some technical difficulties, but we're here and we're better than ever. Sometimes the technical difficulties make you stronger, and that's what we're hoping happened to the 49ers last night. I am your host, Mark Adams. You can find me at 49ers Camelot, and I am looking at Anthony Robertson here on my screen. Ant, how's it going? You can find Ant at 49ers Cutback, by the way.
Yeah, I just had more technical difficulties. I don't know what is going on, but hopefully it'll iron itself out here as we go through this episode. I don't understand it. Xfinity is killing me right now, but I'm glad to be on here, Mark, talking 49ers football and about a game that happened, which is always great.
Yeah, it's always a long off season, and then when you get to talk about actual games, it's a lot more fun. And hey, if you're watching, you'll notice. Look at the artwork that Ant put together here. That shows 49ers Camelot, 49ers Web Zone, which is the other place you can find me. Shows FanDuel. It shows Believe, which is the network that Ant is part of. So nice work here. The red and bold. I can see the show part down at the bottom, but that logo looks really cool. Good job on that.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been working on it. It's been a little bit of a labor of love putting it all together. And thanks for mentioning FanDuel, who is now the title sponsor of 49ers Cutback. And that takes care of, what I have to do every single time. But yeah, FanDuel, if you're interested in betting, they got all the odds up for all preseason, regular season games. So it's a great thing. So, Mark, thanks for mentioning FanDuel. You'll be hearing me say FanDuel on every single episode.
All right. Well, good for you and good for FanDuel. We'll just throw that in there again. David Maraza said, I love the old school 49ers logo. So yeah, that looks pretty cool. We used it back when we did what was that app that we were on?
The PSF
PSF.
app.
Yeah, we did a show on PSF. That's how we met. We actually followed each other on X, but didn't meet until we did PSF, and we used that logo. I think for that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, so I thought it was you had it on some of the original stuff that we did, so I thought it was a nice touch to kind of put it back in there, and it's a lot of fun. It's that original kind of 49ers logo. You don't see it very often, but the ones that have been here since the beginning, they know what's up with that logo.
Yeah. Also see that Benjamin in the chat said, I've been waiting all day for your show. Interested to hear your take on interior O-line play and defensive tackle play. Thanks. Go Niners. We're going to get into that, Benjamin. But first, I want to start off welcoming back an old friend. Jeff Wilson Jr. is returning to the 49ers, which I don't know if this is bad news for Amir Abdullah, who to me looked good last night until he had a rib injury. But Jeff Wilson Jr. is returning to the 49ers. What do you think about that? Bad is that bad for Abdullah?
It could be bad for Keyshawn Vaughn as well. I mean, we don't know for sure which running back, but it didn't look like Amir Abdullah felt very comfortable after taking that shot in the ribs. And he's not a guy that fumbles a ton, but he put the ball in the ground. Usually, that's significant injury. Maybe it's bruised ribs. Hopefully it's not a cracked rib or something like that. But the 49ers had brought Jeff Wilson Jr. in with the workout that went along with Amir Abdullah, and now they're gonna sign him. I'm guessing he's gonna be around for the rest of the preseason for sure. We'll see what happens with him making this team. It's interesting because you've got Jordan James who's going to be out with the broken finger. You've got the injury to Isaac Rendo's shoulder, and I think that Corey Kiner's competing for a roster spot with Patrick Taylor Jr. So it's kind of interesting because I don't see Jeff Wilson Jr. just coming in as a guy who knows he's just going to be a camp body. He's got to believe he's got an opportunity to make this football team. And we know Kyle Shanahan loves him, is the way he runs the football. He's so aggressive. He can catch the ball. He can block. He does everything the right way, just not at the level of some of the guys that are, more prominent around this league. But I think it's a nice signing. It's going to be a comfort situation for him and for the football team. They know what they're going to get out of him. He's a consummate professional. So I like the signing. I just think it's it's kind of interesting that you're going to be so low on running backs. You just keep going through them. And we've seen this how many times throughout Kyle Shanahan's tenure in San Francisco, where running backs just get injured over and over and over. It's just, it's frustrating.
Yeah, not just the running backs. It's the team in general. I mean, I guess you probably saw the post from John Chapman before the 49ers and Broncos practice. He showed where the Broncos were actually lying on the ground, stretching, and the 49ers were doing something different. Now, I did hear Larry Krueger talk about that later, and he said that the 49ers do stretch. They just do it inside, and then they come out to do the more dynamic stuff. And so is there anything to that, or is that just really nothing to be concerned about?
So basically, static stretching, what the Broncos did, has been kind of the consistent form of stretching throughout years of athletics. Over the last like 20 years, it's transitioned to more dynamic stretching. I remember when, as a coach, we went from static stretching to dynamic stretching like the 49ers do. It's not that you're not stretching, you're just stretching in movement. You're doing lunges, you're doing other calf stretches as you move, and you do the static stretching afterwards. Because they were saying that the static stretching could kind of tire out your body, tire out your muscles a little bit. So it's just a philosophy thing. I don't think that the static stretching compared to dynamic stretching is the reason the 49ers have injuries, but it is a stark comparison. And when you look at the Broncos, they've been staying primarily healthy. 49ers have not. Now, there's a lot of other things that play into that factor, right? Denver Broncos have been extremely young over the last couple of years, so young players don't usually have as many injuries. But the 49ers have been a little bit older. And so muscles and stuff like that is a little bit of a problem. But I think it's just a philosophy thing. And I think most trainers, pro trainers especially, would have your team doing dynamic stretching compared to static stretching, which they would normally do at the end of practice to kind of cool down.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I saw Eric Crocker say that from his experience, you do the dynamic stuff before and the static afterward. And so, like, I only know the static. I mean, the static. We didn't do that back when, but there wasn't electricity yet when I played high school football. So things are a little different now. All right, before we jump into some questions and breaking down some things with the game, I want to take a look at Pro Football Focus gave the 5 highest graded players on offense and defense, as well as the 5 lowest graded. Now, I look at this stuff. I don't always put a ton into it because there are times that I've seen them give low grades to a player that just absolutely was killing it in the game. And so and probably vice versa. And so I don't always put everything into what how they do their ratings or their grades. But I'm just curious what you think. Here are the 49ers based on Pro Football Focus, the 5 highest graded 49ers on offense from last night. Right guard Connor Colby was number 1 at a 77.8. Right guard Drew Moss was number 2 at a 77.3. Wide receiver Demarcus Robinson was 3rd at 76.5. Tight end Jake Tongas was 4th at 67.3. And running back Corey Kiner was 5th at 65.9. What do you think about when you see those numbers and those names? What do you think about the way those guys played last night?
Yeah, I don't think that the bottom 3 really surprised me from what we saw, right? Demarcus Robinson, Jake Tunges, and Corey Kiner, I thought looked really good last night. Corey Kiner showed a lot of balance, a lot of vision, and then that acceleration, that sudden burst that him and Jordan James have both displayed, whether they were in college or now during training camp. And I think we saw that. And so that didn't surprise me. I think what surprised me was Connor Colby and Drew Moss having such great scores. And yes, we expected these guys to be developing. And I've been saying I thought that Connor Colby was ahead of schedule from what I believed I was going to see. I thought he looked better than I anticipated coming into camp. So that has been good news. Of course, Chris Furster said he's been a better pass blocker than a run blocker, which I find very interesting because that wasn't something he was really strong at in college. But I think that that's good news. The 49ers need interior offensive line play to be good. And I do think that some of the guys struggled early on against Denver's number one defense, especially when you had DJ Jones and those guys on the inside. They were getting some movement. I mean, Nick Sakel got walked back to Mac Jones. Just luckily, Mac Jones able to get the ball out and get it down the field for the big time completion to Jordan Watkins. But I mean, Zakellis showed a better anchor than that during training camp. And even last year, a little bit during preseason, DJ Jones just smoked him. And so I think that you're seeing, a difference between a few of the players. But I like that the young guys are stepping up, and we've got to see how they continue to develop. This was one game, but let's see, can they build upon this? I think in like Connor Kobe's case, right, he's got a chance to make this team, but he has to prove consistent. Can he be one of these guys that's consistent next week? If he is, then yeah, he's going to put himself in the mix to make this team. But I thought that those two definitely jumped out as the top PFF scores. Of course, we know PFF is not everything, but it does kind of highlight some good plays. And Tunges and Demarcus Robinson, Corey Kiner, when you have those plays where you touch the ball, it kind of inflates your score a little bit. But hey, they were good performers last night.
Well, and Corey Kiner not only did well when he touched the ball, but there was at least one pass where he stayed back and protected the quarterback and was actually called out on the broadcast for doing a good job protecting whoever was in there. I don't remember which quarterback was in at that point, but so that's good to hear because sometimes rookie running backs struggle in pass protection. So glad to hear him called out. Well, here's the three lowest graded 49ers on offense, and you're probably not going to be surprised that two of them are quarterbacks. Tanner Mordecai was the lowest at 26.4. Carter Bradley was the second lowest at 32.8, and Amir Abdullah was third at 38.2. I'm guessing because of the fumble. Now he only had 5 snaps, so fumbling the ball in only 5 snaps, I think, is probably bad. Want to get your thoughts on those three, and the fact that Spencer Burford, who I thought was terrible, allowed 2 quarterback pressures. I really hope that he doesn't have to play, but he's probably going to have to at some point. What did you think about those 4 players?
Yeah, I think when you talk about the quarterbacks, I think it was obvious that those guys were struggling. And I think that people are making some solid points about why those struggles happen. In Carter Bradley's case, he hasn't been with the football team very long, right? His ability within this offense, he hasn't got really able to get a full grip on it, that's for sure. I think if you go back and you watch his reps that he had last year with the Raiders, you definitely see a more competent quarterback, a quarterback that feels more confident in the system and played better. I wouldn't say it's great play, but it's not bad play either. I thought yesterday was a microcosm of a lot of those issues, and he didn't look good. I can't ignore that. But I do think that there's circumstances. And for Mordecai, he hasn't practiced. He hasn't been with the 49ers in a week, was asked to come in and do the best that he could. And I think that Mordecai, in my opinion, when I watched him at training camp anyways, has struggled. I don't think it's looked really good. The timing isn't there. When his back foot hits, he doesn't get rid of the football. The things you see from Mac Jones, you don't see from Carter Bradley or from our guy, Tanner Mordecai. But this is the thing I've been saying since the beginning. I think the 49ers are just going to keep 2 quarterbacks. I think that this was just an illustration of why. These 2 guys that you have, you take a look at them, you see who wins a practice squad spot, but neither one of them can win football games for you during the season. If you get past Brock Purdy, if you get past Mac Jones, you're not winning games.
Right.
And so why keep them on the roster, put them on the practice squad, elevate one in case of an emergency, or better yet, go sign somebody, off the street, an older veteran quarterback if you have to. When it comes to Amir Abdullah, I feel extremely sorry for him. He was running pretty well. The fumble is what made his PFF grade so terrible because he only had 5 snaps. Amir Abdullah would be fine if he didn't have the rib injury. When it comes to Spencer Burford, now Kyle Shannon explained why he got smoked by Nick Benito on the one You could see on the film he's looking in to the center. I don't know what the confusion was. He said they were going quick count. Maybe he was waiting for some sort of a signal, but he got smoked. He got cooked on that play. It didn't look good. And Spencer Burford, we've talked about this before. The feet are my biggest concern with Spencer Burford, because in space, he looks a little slow-footed. You move him inside at guard, and he's got necessary quickness to deal with defensive tackles. You move him on the outside, and he struggles with defensive ends. And Nick Bonito is one of those guys that really excels at getting off the ball quickly, getting in the backfield, and wreaking havoc. And I think that's a bad matchup for Spencer Burford. So Burford's going to have to get a lot better in the next 2 weeks, or he might be running a risk of not making this football team. That's how bad it was. I would like to say that we give him the benefit of the doubt that he's got an opportunity next week. Let's see what he can do. But I definitely don't think it was his best showing.
Yeah, I just have a lot of concerns, and we've talked about this, and so I don't want to keep harping on it, but go back to overtime of the Super Bowl. Burford was the one that missed the assignment that made Brock Purdy have to hurry that last throw, and maybe it wouldn't have happened anyway. So I hate to keep picking on the guy, but I just feel like, you've talked about his feet. I also worry about his head. If Kyle said that he was looking inside, that there was confusion, was the confusion his? If so, is that the same kind of thing that showed up in the Super Bowl? I don't know, and I don't want to pick on the guy, but I am concerned because we know that Trent Williams is going to miss some time. And it worries me to have Spencer Burford protecting Brock Purdy's blind side. So, all right, that's good stuff. And I'll say last night I was, and if you read what I published on 49ers Web Zone today, I was really hard on Carter Bradley, really hard on him. And I probably should backtrack that a little bit and give the guy another shot, because I was hard on him last night and this morning, and then later got thinking, man, they signed him 10 days ago, or maybe somewhere around there, a little over a week ago, I think. And so he couldn't have been that well prepared. So I probably need to give him a little bit of a break, at least one more week. Okay, here are the 5 highest graded 49ers on defense. So Trey Brown was the 49ers highest graded player at 93.5. And so I'm curious what you think about this, because Trey Brown played really well, but he was playing against a lot of guys who probably aren't going to make the roster for the Broncos. Luke Gifford was second, the linebacker, at 89.8. The safety, Jalen Mahoney, was next at 87.7. Cornerback Chase Lucas, who was everywhere last night, was fourth, was at 79.4. And linebacker D Winters was fifth at 74.2. Couple of a few others that I want to mention. Bradley and how do I say that? Anai. Okay. Bradley Anai and Chase Lucas both had 3 quarterback pressures. Jalen Allen, the defensive end who they just signed a couple of weeks ago, and defensive tackle Bruce Hector both had 2 quarterback pressures. So what do you think about these guys that I mentioned, the top 5, and then Anai, Allen, and Hector?
Yeah, I think that Trey Brown, you brought it up. He was playing with the threes. He was kind of playing with that third group, and you expect a player that's had a lot of starting experience in the NFL to play really well, and Trey Brown did. He had a really nice tackle that prevented a first down. He's a guy that's well equipped, and we've been talking about him potentially being cornerback number 3, and then all of a sudden he didn't play until the second half. And I think we're going to see the roles reverse. I think he's going to get an opportunity in the next matchup against the Raiders to go out there and play against a little bit stiffer competition. And I think he'll continue to show up because Trey Brown has had a good training camp. He's been consistent, and I do think he's in the mix to be a third cornerback still. I don't think it's been decided. You've got Dallas Flowers who is playing. You got Upton Stout still who's dealing with the calf. And then you've got Trey Brown. I think all those guys are kind of in the mix. And then Chase Lucas just decided to have probably one of the best preseason games I've seen from a player in a while. I mean, the guy was all over the place. This is more the Chase Lucas we saw at Arizona State, where he was hyper aggressive. He was a Herm Edwards guy, and he was flying around making plays. And I think Robert Saleh's defense has kind of unlocked him. But also, this is his second year in the system. He's more comfortable. He's better understanding what he's supposed to do. So I think it didn't surprise me that Chase Lucas made a play. I think it surprised me how many plays Chase Lucas played, because he stood out amongst everybody. When it comes to Gifford and Winters, D. Winters has been distancing himself from all the other linebackers the entire time at training camp. He has been linebacker number 2, and he just showed it again in this football game. And with Luke Gifford, this is what we've seen since he's been playing Sam backer at practice, consistency. And he's doing that, and he also does it on special teams as well. I think Luke Gifford is on target to be Sam linebacker. I think the only person now that can dethrone him, I don't think it's Nick Martin. We'll see what Nick Martin does, down the stretch in preseason, is Tatum Bethune, who also had himself a really good game, even coming back from that ankle injury. So I think we got a lot of guys there. And then with some of the guys that were kind of jumping off, you brought up Anai, you brought up, some of the other defensive linemen. I think that they did a pretty good job, and they're going to have a shot. But I think they're all kind of practice squad guys when you look at the depth of this team. But it's fun to see the 49ers finding some guys that are creating some opportunities for themselves, and that's what you're hoping. And I think that there's a lot of guys who kind of put themselves on the 49ers radar, especially a guy like Chase Lucas. He went from out to in the mix. And I think that that's what you're trying to do. Put good film out there and give yourself an opportunity to make the team. And I think Chase Lucas has now done that.
Yeah, and he was the one that created the pressure, I think, on that safety. Wasn't he the one?
Yeah, he was. He put the pressure on the nickel blitz coming from the blind side. It was really well done. He came on a few blitzes. There was another one where there was an offsides because if there wasn't, he would have had another free shot on the quarterback. I think at that time it was Jarrett Stidham. But yeah, that he was used really well there. The tackling was great. And the most impressive part wasn't the coverage. It was run fits. He was in the right place at the right time. TFL's tackle for loss. He just looked really, really comfortable playing nickel. Some of the best nickel play, and I know it's a preseason game, but some of the best nickel play we've seen with the 49ers, not named Yammer Lenore in a long time. Like that's how good it was. It was really consistent. And I was very proud to see him out there doing that. You could see the development that the 49ers have gotten from Chase Lucas.
Yeah, and it was great having Robert Saleh back. His defense outscored the 49ers quarterbacks once Mac Jones left the game, and they only scored 2 points. So that's how bad those the others were. All right, here are the 3 lowest graded 49ers on defense, and you mentioned one of them already. Michael, how the heck do I say his name? Do you know how to say this guy's name?
Michael Dwumafor.
I have never heard of this guy.
They just signed him. Signed him. But they had him a couple years ago too.
Okay, so Michael Dwumafor had he's a defensive tackle who had a 29.8 grade. Jalen Graham, the linebacker who is fighting for his life, he had a 30.9. And then Nick Martin, our guy from Oklahoma State, the linebacker, a 31.6. And he missed at least 3 tackles that I saw. What do you think about these 3?
Yeah, I'm going to start with Nick Martin because I think he's the biggest conversation point of the 3 guys. And I really thought that he came out there looking to make an impact, looking to make some plays. He was very eager. We seen him stepping up into the hole, going to feel. He was really trying to make an impact. And I think that made him a little bit out of control. I think that he was just rushing around trying to make plays. He wasn't the only one. We've seen it from Marquis Siegel on the punt as well, where he didn't break down in front of the returner to make the tackle. He kind of went flying by. And if you watch Nick Martin, there were a lot of times he didn't break down, which meant he was out of control and that player was able to make a move or juke him or change direction. And the speed in the NFL is a little bit different. And I think you've seen D. Winters do that over the last couple of years, where he would miss some tackles when he just came flying up out of control. And you can't do that. You got to break yourself down, chop your feet, and attack the right leg, the outside leg on a lot of these plays. And he just wasn't doing it. So there's some technique flaws there, but I think it's eagerness. It's a guy who hasn't played football in a while, going out in his first NFL game and wanting to make plays. I think we just got to give him a little bit of time. What I'm hoping is next week we'll see a little bit of an improvement. Maybe he'll only miss a couple of tackles, and then maybe the week after that he'll start figuring it out. We just give these guys a little bit of time. I think the one thing we can see, the speed, the athleticism, the instincts, he's definitely flying around, and that's promising. Give the guy a chance to develop, and I think at some point he'll make an impact. So it wasn't entirely bad, but yeah, he was definitely struggling with some of the things that he was doing, a little bit of coverage issues, but we've seen that. I talked about the footwork and drills when I went to training camp. So he's a developmental player, but the tools are there. At some point, he's going to be a guy that can make some plays for this football team.
Who started at center?
It was Matt Hennessy.
Okay. On that quarterback keeper on the touchdown drive, what was that? Was that a 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1? I can't remember. But Mac Jones kept it. They picked up the first down. Whoever was in front of him, Hennessy, he blew that guy off the ball. And I was like, well, I know that wasn't Jake Brendel. So who the heck was that guy? And I didn't catch who it was, and then I forgot to pay attention after that. But we talked about him, not really that he was going to beat out Jake Brendel, because Chris Furster loves Jake Brendel, but Matt Hennessy was somebody that we've talked about that we would like to see get some time at least to show what he can do.
Yeah, Matt Hennessy is a little bit better point of attack guy, than Jake Brendel, right? Jake Brendel, as far as hitting someone directly in front of them and getting, a push, it's not great. But if you watch that quarterback sneak, Nick Tickell actually got a push on that play, which I was watching him because that's not really his game either. And then you got Ben Barch on the other side, who was also getting some movement. So that was good to see those 3 guys up front really just wedge it out and they only needed to get, I think it was 1 foot. I know they said on there that you needed 1 inch, but it was 1 foot. Mm-hmm. And they did a great job. Mac got it, and it was a good thing. And I think Matt Hennessy played decent. I don't think it was really great. I don't think it was bad, but for a first outing, I thought it looked pretty good. I want to see what he does more so in like the outside zone game. That's where I want to see, because the thing that Jake Brendel does to separate himself from most of the centers the 49ers bring in is that ability to get to the second level and make second level blocks. That's why they love him so much, because of that skill set, not the pass blocking, not anchoring, not pushing someone at the point of attack. That's not the things they love. They love the second level thing. If someone's going to dethrone him, that's the part of the game they've got to be adequate in. So that's what we got to watch Matt Hennessy. I thought it was good. I don't think it was, enough to take over Jake Brendel's spot, but yeah, it's fun to see somebody go out there and execute pretty well as a center. I think they have a good backup center, at least in Matt Hennessy.
Yeah, I just I normally don't pay much attention to the offensive line, and yet I noticed that easily. So, all right, somebody. Sorry, I don't know how to say your name here, but somebody wrote people are overreacting to 1s against 2s, and
that's Kawachipto.
Kawachipto. All right.
Yeah.
So I think this is an interesting comment, and I don't know, where this is being directed to or from or whatever, but it is interesting that a lot of the 49ers that were on the field in the first quarter, when they played really well, were not starters, but the Broncos were playing some starters, which was interesting. So I think that's I was pleased with what I saw in the first quarter. Now after that, it was a train wreck, but like what I saw at the beginning.
Yeah, I think so. And especially because the conversation points coming out of joint practice was how much more dominant the Denver Broncos offensive line and defensive line were compared to the 49ers. And then on those first 3 drives, the offense and defensive lines of the 49ers stood up a little bit, right? They didn't just get bullied. And I think that's the main thing you wanted to see. And it was the 49ers second unit that was not being bullied. It wasn't dynamic, right? Our second units didn't dominate, but they played stiff. They played tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's good moving forward. It shows a little bit of depth that the 49ers do have at a couple of positions. I think that's what I'm eager to see for the rest of, the preseason. Can they duplicate that? It's all about consistency. But it was nice to see guys like Kalia Davis go out there and compete and play well, and Bryce Huff, we got to see him come off the edge a little bit and generate a little bit of pressure. I seen him chasing at one point. I thought, wow, we have a defensive end that can actually try to run somebody down right now. That's nice to see because we don't normally have that athleticism from defensive end. So there were definitely some bright spots, and I thought they played well. I don't think it was, oh man, we hung with the number one unit, but I thought they had moments where they did pretty good.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to get to some questions here. Filthy Casual asked, do you think more starters will start to play later in the preseason? Brock wants to. Yes, I do. Hopefully not for not very long. I saw that somebody in here, sorry, I lost it, or I would, it was Joe Carmack here said, I'm seeing all the other teams putting their starters out and wish we would do the same. Man, I'm torn on that. The way this team gets injured, and maybe they don't get injured any more than anybody else does, but I don't want to see Trent. I don't want to see Bosa. I don't want to see Warner or Kittle or McCaffrey. Purdy, I don't know. I don't know if I want to see him if Trent Williams isn't out there. But where are you at? Because back in the day, Walsh, Seifert, those guys, they played in the preseason. They didn't play all of the preseason, but they played a decent amount in the preseason. These days, it seems like there are teams like the Rams. Sean McVay, he doesn't like to play his guys at all, unless he's changed this season. But where are you at on that? Do you want to just protect your key starters, or do you think they need to get some reps?
I think there's some guys that we might not see. I do believe that Brock Purdy, just because I've watched Kyle Shanahan, the way he handles the quarterback situation, will probably play Brock Purdy maybe a couple of drives against the Raiders, even though they're going to have joint practices. And then Tim Ryan kind of let the cat out of the bag, and I hope Tim Ryan's right that the Chargers game will actually be the dress rehearsal. So that one you might see the 49ers starters play, most of the first quarter. And so I think that's kind of how you work it in. Now with Trent, we've seen the 49ers play him before in preseason, but it's usually like one series. I don't think we're going to see much Trent Williams. The only way we see Trent Williams is if Trent Williams thinks he needs to play some football. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to do his best to get out there, and we might see him for a drive or two. But I think for the most part, you keep those guys as out of it as possible. But I do think the 49ers want to get some rhythm to their offense and get some things going before they get out there in the regular season. So I think Brock is very likely to see. And then I think everybody else, I probably put at like a 10% chance we see Trent and Christian McCaffrey. I do think we'll see Bosa, probably the same sort of things, maybe a drive or two at some point, maybe during the dress rehearsals against the Chargers, because I do think they want to get some rhythm. And I think for Robert Saleh, he wants to see what his defense could look like out there together. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
All right, here's a question from David Morazzo. Who had the block that sprung Taylor loose on the touchdown?
Yeah, I was trying to think of that. I saw that comment from David Morazzo, and I don't remember. I'll have to go back and look. I watched the game back again, but I didn't evaluate everything. I usually go back and watch every single player and evaluate them, but I kind of just did a watch. So I did not see that. I do know that Jeff Wilson Jr., wrong guy. Patrick Taylor Jr. Did a great job of, bouncing that out, because Talanoa Hufanga stepped up right in the hole, and he did a good job of getting out there. But I don't remember who the wide receiver was that caused that to happen. I keep wanting to think it's Jordan Watkins, but I can't say for sure. So I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah, you're getting your juniors mixed up here. And hey, there was another junior last night that had a really good punt return. Junior Bergen, We've been really back and forth, kind of iffy on if he's going to make the team, but he keeps returning punts like that. He's going to make it.
That's what he has to do, right? That's what we said. He has to make a dynamic impact on special teams to make the team, because when he's out there on offense, there was nothing, right? We didn't see anything yet. Now he's got a couple more games to do something. But what we saw on that punt return was the ability that Brant Boyer saw. And if he can do that a couple more times in the preseason, I think he's got a really good shot to make this team, because that is a dynamic part of the game the 49ers haven't had in a while.
Yeah.
That improved field position, it changes your chances of getting a scoring opportunity. And so that was a really big play. The juke right when he caught the ball, to get around the outside, break contain, get out there, a couple blocks away from even a bigger play than that. I thought it was nice. That's the part of his game that we need to excel. If he's going to make this team, he has to be special on special teams. And I thought it was a good start. If he can keep that going, he's got a shot.
All right. Let me get to this question from Ronnie Montoya. Thoughts on Kalia Davis?
It's interesting. I brought up Kalia Davis. I think it was last week. I don't remember what show I was on. I don't know if it was this show, or if it was the show with John, or just one of my other shows. But it was kind of a thing where I saw Kalia Davis making some plays out at training camp, and I thought, hey, here comes Kalia Davis a little bit. It looked like he had his legs underneath him. His hand technique was better, and he was starting to kind of do some things. And I thought, you know what? I put it out there, and it wasn't received well, which Kalia Davis has struggled a lot, especially with injuries for the 49ers. So I get it, but I thought he had a pretty good game. I don't think it was perfect. I do think that there was some mistakes, but he showed some of that athletic ability, hustling down the line of scrimmage, making tackles, getting some pressure up the middle, and getting the sack when there was the pressure around the outside. So he's kind of playing well. But I will say this, last year, first preseason game, Kalia Davis was a world beater. He got injured, and he wasn't the same since. So I want to see consistency from Kalia Davis. So I liked what I saw, but I'm not ready to crown him yet. He's got to go out there and prove it. And if I'm Chris Kasarik, I'm telling him the same thing. Hey, good job, 93. I need to see it next week too. I need to see it happen again. But I thought it was at least a good situation, because Kevin Givens is going to be out for the first part of this season, and we need a guy who can penetrate and generate a pass rush from the inside. And that's not really what CJ West and Alfred Collins are going to do early on in the season. So we need a guy like Kalia Davis to step up and do that, because a guy like Evan Anderson, he ain't going to do it either. So Kalia Davis is important to this football team. And if he could play well, that's a big hit for the 49ers.
Next question is from Shifty's 49ers Talk. Your guys' thoughts on Jason Pennick, potential starter week 1, had a bad missed tackle.
Yeah, you're going to have missed tackles, and I know exactly what Shifty's talking about here. Jason Pennick had an opportunity to make a play out on the edge on the left side, and he came flying up, and he missed the tackle. And Tim Bryan did a very good job of talking about why he missed it. So when you are doing technique tackling, you want to take your helmet, you want to put it across the guy to his leg furthest to the outside towards the sideline. Get your body there, so that way he has to cut it in if he's going to juke you. You got to turn that play in. What we saw from Jason Pennick was his left shoulder going to the other knee. That is poor tackling technique. Missed tackle happened. So it's a technique flaw. But let's also remember, this is the first time these guys have tackled to the ground since last season. So they've got to make sure they renew this. I guarantee this is going to be a focal point of Robert Saleh's practice, because it wasn't just Jason Pennick. It was also Dallas Flowers was doing the same thing. We've seen it from Nick Martin. It's going to be a point of emphasis, tackling technique. They need to get better at it. Pennick's going to be expected to make those plays. We've seen Siegel making those plays. Now we need to see Pennick get in. But I wasn't concerned. This is a veteran guy. He'll fix it. He knows what his job's supposed to be.
I liked Siegel last night. I thought that he was great. He did miss a tackle on a punt return that went for a lot of yardage. It was right there, and he just missed it. And then somebody else missed it as well. And so I'm sure Brant Boyer wasn't crazy about that, but I would imagine that's going to be a teaching point this week. Which punt that I was talking about? It was one of the first ones.
Yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about. And, Marquis Siegel's going to be a special teams guy for the 49ers, right? That 4.3 speed. Plus, he's usually a good tackler. We saw it in space, tackling very talented running backs who are shifty and can move. And he was out of control. This is what I talked about with Nick Martin. It's the same thing for Marcus Siegel. In those situations, you teach your player to break it down. And what you want to do is you want to slow yourself down, start chopping your feet, so that way you don't have to fly out of control and miss the tackle. So that's something that he's going to get better at. But you're right, Brad Boyer, I saw him walking up, grabbing guys, talking to them, coaching them up. That's a stark comparison to last year, where you could kind of just make a mistake and go walk on, to the sideline and no one said a single thing to you. So Marquis Siegel's going to get better. I think he's going to be a big special teams player for the 49ers this year.
All right, here's a question from I can't quite read this. Cognizance. Good grief, I can't read or today. So we kind of already talked about this. Martin looked bad in pursuit and in pass coverage. Are you guys concerned?
I think I will be more concerned if this is still happening against the Chargers in a couple weeks. I think if we see a little bit of an improvement, and this is one of the things that coaches want, right? When you get film, yeah, you love guys to play really well, execute perfectly, but you don't mind mistakes because then you know what to coach up. You want them to make mistakes so you can fix things. And what Nick Martin did was he illustrated the things he needs to get better at. It was very evident on a coaching perspective. So they're going to get their hands on this guy and they're going to work on it. And what you're hoping is next week, he doesn't make as many mistakes. He fixes a couple of things. Maybe it's that he fixes his pursuit. Maybe his pass coverage doesn't get a whole lot better, but he fixes pursuit. That gets better. Then the Chargers week, it's a little bit better at coverage. That's what you're hoping for, building upon what you can do well. And I think that he's going to be okay. But the Chargers week, I want to see him a lot better.
All right. Ronnie Montoya asked, do you feel special teams improved?
I do.
For one game. But
I do. You know why? Because we seen Terrell Luter Jr. make a tackle. This dude hasn't been good at special teams in 2 years, and already he did something right, which means he's coached up. You also seen a good return, which means they put value on that. You've seen Dallas Flowers returning kicks and get past the 30-yard line. So you're seeing little tiny things, technique things with the special teams. It's going to work. And especially right now, you have this super deep roster. Eventually, you're going to get your best guys out there on special teams as well. And it is going to be an improvement. Brad Boyer is going to help things. We even saw the old man John Weeks get down there and make a tackle. So very excited about special teams. I do think Brad Boyer is going to have this thing rolling. I did see subtle improvements. It's not huge yet, but it's going to be evident during this season.
David Morazzo in the chat said Mark's struggling with reading today. That is true. My PFF grade for today is going to be really bad. I don't want to see that. Phil the Casual asks a question here. Did you see improvement in the run defense? The Broncos had 153 yards on the ground.
I think that there was some things the 49ers did bad when it came to run defense, right? We've seen some movement with the defensive line, especially when they went dual blocks. This has been a problem. And I thought, once again, Tim Ryan did a good job on the telecast of telling you, they do dual blocks, they do pin and pull, right? They're going to kick you down, run that crack toss around the outside. This is the type of thing that works against the 49ers defense. You saw subtleties to how Robert Saleh is going to help fix that with the blitz on the outside, some of the run blitzes with the linebackers. He had one time where Stone Blanton came running through and would have made a play. So there were some good things and there were some bad things. Alfred Collins, CJ West, those guys got to get a little bit better when it comes to playing against the run. They were taking on those double teams. We've seen moments where it was good, but we also seen them get washed a little bit. So, but we got to remember, this is game 1 of their NFL career. They've never played an NFL snap. And so let's see how they develop. Do I think the run defense was all the way there? No. Do I think that the run defense is going to be improved this season? Yes, I do. The linebacker play from D. Winters, the linebacker play from Luke Gifford. Those things are a couple of reasons why. But also, wait until you guys get a glimpse of Upton Stout at nickel corner and tell me about somebody flying off the edge like Chase Lucas. That's Upton Stout, right? He does the same sort of thing. So I do think there's going to be a vast improvement. Also, Mikael Williams setting the edge in the run game. No one's going to get around the edge when Mikael Williams is there, and he wasn't there.
Yeah, not to mention Fred Warner wasn't there.
Oh yeah, that guy too.
So, and there's this Bosa guy who's pretty good against the run. So, yeah, they're definitely going to be better against the run. And Robert Saleh, I mean, that difference alone. All right, this is from Lowbridge. How has Bill been doing? Robert Bill Jr. Doing in practice? Is he starting to develop pass rush moves? I know he can set the edge and play special teams. Would love to see it all together. He had a sack last night, didn't he?
He did, and he got hurt. So Robert Beal Jr. is dealing with a groin now. And so you've got Samuel Kawani dealing with a groin. You've got Robert Beal Jr. We don't know how extensive it is. I'm definitely waiting to hear. But I got to be honest, I did hear some negatives about Robert Beal Jr. setting the edge in the run game. But I thought there was some advantages to Robert Beal Jr. was the guy did a pretty good job of bringing pressure. We saw something that we were hoping for a couple years ago starting to develop. And this is that slow process of Chris Kasarik developing a complete defensive end. He took a guy that was only known for GTFO and taught him how to set the edge in the run game. And now he's going to teach him how to rush the passer. And I think you're going to see the evolution of Robert Beal Jr. I've been saying that I was a fan of Robert Beal Jr., early on in this process. I've even said I thought he was going to make the team. And a lot of people have been putting him on the outside. Now, this injury could put a big problem into him making the team, but I think that there's still a lot of talent there, and he's just kind of scratching the surface of his ability. But it was nice to see him get after the quarterback. I hope the injury wasn't too significant.
Here's a question from the 49ers 2025. Are you going to make an all 22 video of the offensive line, Ant?
Yeah, I'm working on, I got to get my all 22 film together. And then, yes, I do. I break down. I'll be going over offensive line, everything, getting through all of it. I do it every single week, game to game. So when I have that ready to go, I'll let everyone know, hey, it's going to be available. But right now, I don't have the film, all 22, to do it yet, but I'm going to get it. And when I do, yeah, I'm going to break down those offensive linemen. I get stuck in the line. I'll be honest. Like I like to break down everything, but I will get stuck in the line. And there's a lot to break down this year with some of the guys and some of the ways it could go. It's going to get interesting.
And I get stuck following the ball. So I'm like the average fan probably. This from Joe Carmack. Do you think Watkins is going to be a starter or will it be Russell Gage Jr.? I liked what I saw from Jordan Watkins, at least on a couple of plays last night. Russell Gage Jr. he didn't do as much as I kind of thought that he might, but I would I think that to me, I would prefer to see Watkins just because of the upside, but I think Kyle might in those early games go with Russell Gage Jr. because I just don't think that he's going to trust a rookie wide receiver at this point. You mentioned last week that he did Debo, but that's kind of rare for Kyle.
Yeah, I don't think either one of them is going to be a starter. I think that Kyle was very open about some of the things that happened with Jordan Watkins. It wasn't all perfect. There were some good things. And that's what I've been saying. I think there's a couple that plays a game where we can see Jordan Watkins make an impact. But I think that you're going to have Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Demarcus Robinson, and probably Jacob Cowing. Those four guys ahead of Jordan Watkins. Because the Cowing is, once he gets back, and he's supposed to test his hamstring tomorrow. Hopefully he's back and ready to go because I do think he's going to be further along in the process. Some of the things that Watkins struggled with last night, you're not going to see from Jacob Cowing. So I'm looking forward to it, but I do think that they've got key veterans ahead. But I would say this, Russell Gage, he knows all those things. So I think Kyle's going to look at it and say, we'll use Watkins in key situations where he can't hurt us. Russell Gage will be a little bit over him when it comes to depth.
All right, this from Chris, Mr. 49er. Why didn't the 49ers play more of their rookies and projected starters? Most teams play their starters for a couple of drives. I mean, they did play their rookies. The ones that didn't play are the ones that are a little dinged up. And the projected starters, like I think that they're just not going to play them very much in maybe that third preseason game, but I don't think we're going to see them very much until then. Not every team plays their starters. We mentioned how Sean McVay doesn't. Now maybe this season he'll change, but in the past he hasn't played any of his guys.
Yeah, I think it's important too for these young guys to get a lot of reps, right? The rookies that were playing, it was very important. Marquis Siegel, Nick Martin, Alfred Collins, CJ West. It's important for these guys to log snaps, and even some of the second year guys logging snaps, because you get better at football by playing football. And I would have loved to have seen Upton Stout, but he was dealing with an injury. I think it would have been fun to see him. But this is the best thing for the 49ers. And the veteran players, they don't need as many reps. But I also think the 49ers are trying to go with the thought process, let's keep everyone healthy. And that's what they're trying to do. So
Yeah.
I thought they went to I knew they were going to go second team to start, but I thought they even got out of the second team faster than anticipated and got to the third team. But I thought it was great for guys like Chase Lucas. You got to put a lot of things on film. You got a really good idea where he was at, and other guys got more time. Marquis Siegel, I thought that was really good for him. And Jalen Mahoney, a lot of snaps. And that's going to help them in the long run.
All right, let me get to this this $5 from Monkey Boy 12th. I thought special teams looked much better. We looked like a top 29 special team squad, and Morstead wasn't a big leg, but was straight down the fairway and coverable.
Yeah, I love this from Monkey Boy. Right, we've been 30, 31, 32 for like the last couple years, and seeing a top 29 special teams unit is improvement. And I think that's funny, but he's right. I think the special teams showed enough improvement that we could think maybe they could be 15 to 20 this year, right? Kind of in the middle of the pack. And what that would mean for this 49ers football team, it could change a lot of things. Field position. You talked about Morstead. It wasn't a big late, but it was consistent. You knew what you were going to get out of it. And you knew that you were going to get the hang time and give your coverage team a chance to get down there and make a play and not allow returns. And that's the element of, having good kick coverage. A lot of it is attributed to that punter, him knowing what to do. So I do think that the special teams is going to be, a lot better. And thanks, Monkey Boy, for the $5 super chat. We really appreciate it.
From Lowbridge, did Tariq Owens get any reps? Bradley's son did. He's asking about Terrell Owens' kid, Tariq, versus Gus Bradley's kid. So Gus Bradley's kid did, and sounds like he stunk up the place. I can't throw over 20 yards. Can I get some reps not related to anyone? No, you're not going to be getting reps if you're not related to anyone. Yeah, Tariq Owens did play. I think they threw him the ball once. He had no catches. I'm not sure how many snaps he played, but I do remember seeing that they threw him the ball. He was targeted once, but no catches. Did you see anything other than that?
No, I mean, he's out there. He got some reps. He only got targeted one time. Some of that could be attributed to the quarterback situation, which it wasn't entirely great. And I think that's might be one of the elements why you're going to see Mac Jones more next week, probably a little bit of Brock Purdy. Get some opportunities for these guys, receivers, and others to make some plays as well.
David Morazzo asked, what's the holdup with announcing the Robinson suspension? That is a great question. The NFL does this whenever they decide they're going to do it. They have been handing out some suspensions here in the last week. So the hope is that they'll announce Demarcus Robinson's suspension soon. But until that happens, we have no idea. There's no indication that that's going to happen soon or when that's going to be. But I hope that it'll be soon so that we can get that taken care of. If it's the first 3 games or whatever, that way the team knows what they're dealing with and they can move on.
Yeah, I don't know when it's going to happen. Maybe the NFL is going to do the 49ers a solid and move this down the line a little bit into the middle of the season when Brandon Ayuk is back. But you know what? If they decide that they're going to push this thing off, hey, I don't mind having Demarcus Robinson earlier in the season. I think we saw some early returns in the preseason game and what he could do. Him, Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall. Oh yeah, sign me up for that three-man group until Ayuk comes back. I think that's a nice grouping.
All right, let me get to two more, and then we're going to take off here. Both of these are from Rob D. The first one, did you see the 70-yard field goal? Yes, of course I did. That guy was from the University of Arkansas, so I definitely saw the former Razorback hitting the 70-yarder. Isn't that what we were supposed to get out of Jake Moody? Yeah, I mean, that's what Jake Moody, that's what we know that we have. He could hit a 70-yarder and then miss a 20-yarder. So just hopefully he's more consistent this year. And then he asks, what did you see in Alfred Collins?
I think we saw a guy that's developing. I mean, Alfred Collins is still trying to figure things out. And that's one of the issues with, a guy that's coming along slow in the process, who comes from a different system, is he's got to develop. And right now, he's still developing. He struggled a little bit taking on double teams, which should be something he's better at. So we need to see him get his pad level lower and work a little bit harder at that. Tim Ryan talked about him getting his legs underneath him. Maybe he's not all the way in football shape. So we'll see how this thing works. I thought it was a decent outing. I don't think it was really good. I don't think it was really bad. I just call it decent. And let's see how he stacks days. How's he going to look next week? Hopefully there's an improvement. And we need Alfred Collins to be the run stopper. That's what we need from him. So hopefully he's going to develop over the next couple weeks, and we could talk about a guy that'll be a solid rotational piece, because right now it doesn't look like he has the capabilities to start from what we've seen so far, but we're still hopeful that he's going to develop. I just thought he was going to develop a little bit quicker.
Well, and he has dealt with some injury stuff, so that could also be part of it. But great stuff, Ant, and thanks for everybody who was in the chat and everybody watching or listening today. We appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Hope that you enjoyed the game yesterday in spite of, I mean, who cares who wins? I want to see the 49ers win because I want the young players to learn how to win. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. So, but still, hope everybody had fun. Next week, they're in Las Vegas next Saturday. They'll be traveling to Vegas for a dual practice. There was some concern that they would cancel that because of all of the injuries, but Kyle Shanahan said that they will continue to do that. So we'll see what happens after that. Hopefully they'll start having some guys come back and get healthy because, man, that list is getting kind of long. Anything you want to say before we take off, Ant?
Nope, that's it. I think we covered it. It was a great episode. I had a lot of fun, and looking forward to another week of 49ers football.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Hope that you have a great rest of